Hello, and welcome to episode 303 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian,
And I'm James.
and we are putting our normally scheduled Foundations review content that's going on forever for banned and restricted, and maybe even more interesting, unbanned announcements today.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Potentially even more interesting than the bands.
Yeah, they wrote a lot.
Yes.
So,
I was pretty busy today, so I did not have a chance to read the whole announcement.
okay,
But I do
I
have
did read over
thoughts.
it.
So
All right, so if you have thoughts as we going into next week, which will probably be more neat Foundations cards. Though Aether Drift preview season is rapidly approaching.
holy moly,
It's like it never ever ends.
never ends.
But if you have suggestions on what you want us to talk about, reach out. Facebook, Discord, X, maybe one day Blue Sky if I ever get around to it.
Who knows?
Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, hit us up. Show ideas.
All the links in the description.
Yeah, we did have somebody piped up in Discord, so we do have a few cards from Foundations that were called out.
List.
Yep.
Okay, excellent.
They are on the list for whenever we get to them. One thing you forgot to mention is over the holidays here, I don't think we're going to be able to do an episode like right before New Year's. So that week might not have an episode. Just an FYI. But other than that, yeah. Hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear about. If you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. The first is with our TCG player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Maybe if we ever get through Foundations, there'll be some cards you're interested in. Or we'll have a whole nother set that you can get cards from also.
Yeah.
If you purchase through TCG player using our link, it doesn't cost you guys anything extra and you help to support the show. So we would appreciate that. If you want to support us more directly, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG is where you can do that. Patrons get access to our show notes, so you kind of get a sneak peek about what the episode's going to be about. And you also get access to about another hour's worth of content out of us every week in the form of our unshow. We're old, our equipment doesn't work. We now live half a country apart. So we need an hour to make sure everything's working and to catch up every week. And we record that and pipe it right into our patrons' ear holes.
We are half a country apart and like an entire climate apart.
Yes. It's been kind of chilly here. It was like 60 today.
I thought it was pretty warm. It was 40 today.
I put a sweatshirt on.
I sit in my office with a fleece on now all the time.
Got to get you a space heater.
I do. All right. So, we're gonna talk banned and restricted.
Sure.
I think that we'll talk about modern first because I think the other the Pioneer band kind of piggybacks off the modern band on some degree.
Okay.
But we could start with Pioneer. Okay, we'll start with Pioneer. We'll do that. So
let's start with Standard.
Standard, no changes. They're loving it. There's a bunch of people out there saying that Standard's the best it's ever been or one of the best formats ever. Kibler apparently tweeted that the other day.
I think Standard's fine. Before Pioneer Masters came out, I was playing Standard. And
yeah, I mean maybe I need to get back in. Maybe I need to get back into it. I've just been ignoring Standard for years because of I got a bad taste in my mouth previously, so I need to maybe get back on that. But Standard, no changes, and I don't think there is anything that is
no, I don't think really I'd call it fantastic.
Egregious.
It's not the best format I've ever played, but it's not bad. It's pretty good for Standard.
Yep. So the Pioneer ban, they banned Jegantha the Wellspring.
Mm-hmm. So how many companions are we down? How many companions have eaten a ban?
Let me see here. So in modern, because I have
I just meant across the board. We got Jengantha now, Loris. Lutri is banned. Lutri was banned off the rep and Commander. Yorion. Zerda was banned.
Zerda was banned in
Legacy, right?
Legacy, yep.
So 5?
So half of them.
Yeah.
Basically,
that mechanic wasn't a mistake at all, was it?
No, any of them that were playable are banned. So basically, they came to the realization that everyone else did, which is one, having access to a 8th card in your hand is bad.
Yep.
And 2, Jingantha really doesn't have a deck building restriction.
Right.
And so there's a huge number of decks that just get Jingantha for free.
Mm-hmm.
And they were also arguing that having Jingantha be, that free card, stifles creativity or like limits the card pool because like you can't play like black red and put Shieldred in your deck, right? Because you're not willing to give up Jingantha.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, like you just can't play double colored spells because you don't want to risk giving up Jingantha. So that was their kind of like for diversity, right? Diversity of the format.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
Yeah, and to like not, and that the format was kind of homogeneous around the fact that you kind of were like limited in what you could play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of that is like I think a way that they have pushed power, as of late, is a lot of cards that may have in the past been 1 green or 1 black or 2 and a green. Like if Sentinel of the Nameless City was 1 green, you wouldn't bat an eye.
Right.
You'd be like, that makes sense. Or if Preacher of the Schism was 1 black.
Yeah.
Right? Like they pushed a lot of 2 and a black, 2 and a green, 2 and a red cards that could have easily had double pips.
Yep.
But so that was kind of their only change.
Which is kind of weird because like Mana's been really good lately, right? You'd think that that's a knob that they would have played with a little bit. That you could have
turned to like, make it so you could. I mean, even like to like differentiate cards. Yeah. The thing that came up on limited resources was just like the difference between like 2 and a green and like 1 black or in 2 and 1 green and like limited, and how like you can't play many of those cards. So maybe it's a thing where like we want this card to be like really playable and limited. So we're gonna make it.
Yeah, but I mean the cards that you just rattled off are all rares. Like
they are.
That's not a thing that you have to worry about for limited purposes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like it could also be like we want to make sure they see play. Like you can't like.
Well, right, but like Preacher of the Schism, black decks would absolutely pay black for that card. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
Same thing with your nameless whatever.
Yeah, Sentinel of the Nameless City.
Yeah.
No, I agree, but like it's one of those things. Like if they had designed other cards differently, to like make you make a choice of like, do I want to play Sentinel of the Nameless City or do I want to play Jingantha? Yeah. Right. Do I want to play Preacher of the Schism in my black-red deck or my black-green deck, or do I want to play Jingantha? And instead, it was just like, all these cards that you already want to play don't ever make you consider, do I not want to play Jingantha? Yeah. So that's just like it's right to get rid of it, but it's also kind of their own fault. Like they could have designed differently
for sure
to not make Jingantha a free roll for the last like 3 or 4 years. Because like you would build decks and you just be like, oh, Juicy Jason here for free. Okay. Or like there might be like 1 card and you're like, well, I could play a different card here. There's something that is like the same effect. Yeah. So I'll just play something different. All right. So now we have Modern. And Modern's where all the stuff was.
Oh, boy, was it. I think that's an understatement.
So we're recording on Monday night. The Magic, the daily MTG show is, I think, Tuesday. Okay. Or was Tuesday if you're listening to this. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And last week they were like, oh yeah, we're going to talk bands next week, and it's going to be like a big one. Okay. And it was.
It definitely was.
Um, I was talking maybe in between the show and the pre-show that on Friday, Saffron Olive did something he'd not ever done before. He basically played Aspiring Spikes video that was modern solutions for modern problems, or modern problems need modern solutions, something like that, where Spike kind of laid out what cards he would ban and why. And he said that kind of in the end, there were kind of two paths you should go down. Both paths, Path 1 and Path 2, had Buban, Jingantha, and the One Ring in Modern. Get rid of them both. And then he wanted them to unban cards like Splinter Twin, maybe Mox Opal. There was a handful of cards of unbans, but Splinter Twin was one. I think Mox Opal was another.
Yeah.
And then he wanted them to, which they didn't do in this announcement, move away from scheduled ban announcements so that like we're not stuck with like a trash format for weeks.
So they can just fix it whenever they want.
Yeah. Path 2 was Jingantha and the One Ring, but then ban 2 cards out of energy. And those cards be like Amp Raptor, Guide of Souls, Flage, what's his name? Cat guy. Ajani. There was like something, there were like 5 or 6 cards. He was like, ban any 2 of these. Static Prison was another one. But then don't do the unbans.
Okay.
And they kind of went like in between.
Yeah.
Where they like took something from energy, but not 2 things.
Right.
And they gave us some classic modern cards.
Yeah. Some spicy stuff.
And spicy stuff. So they banned the One Ring. The One Ring at the time of banning was in like 60% of decks.
Yeah.
Now that was partially because energy was like 30-ish% of the format. And energy played the One Ring.
Right.
So half of the One Ring's play came out of one deck.
Well, I mean, the problem with One Ring is pretty similar to the problem with Jingantha.
Yeah, there's no restriction.
There's just no restriction. You get to do whatever you want. And
the fact that it's legendary, which, like, for the way Magic works, it has to be.
Right.
Right? No, we say that, but they did print a whole bunch of lands that were, like, Castle Garenbrig. I have 3 of them.
Yeah.
Not legendary. Right? But, you would, get 3 burn counters on your One Ring, and by that time you've drawn another One Ring,
and you
reset it.
Yeah.
And so you took like 3 damage to draw 6 cards, and then you were like, here's another one.
See you
and
later.
You can't attack me.
Yeah.
And I'll draw a card. So the fact that it was colorless and it was like everywhere was a big problem. And like, you could kind of say they took One Ring from energy, but like energy didn't adopt One Ring for a while, and it was still like one of the best decks in Modern. So like, if you want to say, if in their mind they're like, we took 2 cards from energy, the One Ring and Amped Raptor, right? But really, you took the One Ring from over half of the format, from everyone, and then you took Amped Raptor from
energy.
Energy. So like Amp Raptor, I think is like a fine limited card, right? But the fact that it's worth 2, 3, 4 mana on turn 2, right, with like the right draw, right, like Galvanic Blast or Galvanic, Discharge. Your elf have 2 energy, play Amp Raptor, hit the One Ring. Right, like you can't keep up with that.
Right.
Or like just naked Amp Raptor hit an Ajani. Right, the game's over.
Right.
So they are losing that like explosive burst of energy or of mana, but I still think the deck's going to be pretty good. They said that they did not want to just remove. What's it called? They didn't want to just remove energy from the format like they did with Nadu.
Well, if I'm recalling correctly, there was also an announcement about Aether Drift, right?
Uh, I know that they renamed the plane.
They renamed the plane. Well, they renamed Kaladesh. It's not Kaladesh
Yes.
anymore. It's whatever they changed it to.
Yeah.
But there was so Aether Drift is set on 3 planes. It's on whatever Kaladesh turned into. It's on Muraganda, which is the vanilla creature plane, I think.
Okay.
And I don't remember the 3rd plane it's on. And I'm being a bad host because I didn't look it up before the show. I'm only thinking of this now. But I believe there was something in the announcement that is leading people to think that energy is coming back in Aether Drift. So
I mean,
maybe they don't just want to kill Amtrap or kill energy because like they're printing more cards for energy.
So Draftism is saying that Aether Drift to bring back broken mechanic to standard.
Okay.
So there are commander decks. And the commander decks, there's one that's called Living Energy.
Oh.
And this is So the Living Energy EDH pre will the Living Energy precon will have seems like it has energy. Oh, okay. People are really like showing are like, okay, the Living Energy EDH precon will introduce 10 never before seen commander cards as a way too few to sustain. Okay, so people are thinking maybe just based on the fact that the commander deck has energy in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Really mean anything. Although, I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're racing on Kaladesh that there's energy there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like those two things kind of tie into each other.
Yeah, like you can't like. I mean, they have. Right. I mean, they could do energy like they did, like Phyrexian mana when we were doing like the whole thing where it was like, hey, like you get energy if you meet some condition and that card spends it, or like there's the cards that were like, hey, I forget what you had to do, but like one green spell, you can replace a green mana symbol with like a Phyrexian green or something. So like maybe they could do something like that, but like Kaladesh was defined by like vehicles and energy.
Yeah. Well,
and so it seems hard to walk away from one of them.
When they did Phyrexian mana, when they brought that back, it was like just that set of mythics, right? Or just the cycle of mythics.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we're gonna get like just a cycle of mythics with energy.
Maybe where like
here's a mechanic, we're not gonna put enough in to make it break the format, but
like here's like this mythic makes energy and then also spends it or something. Where it's like whenever a creature comes into play, like kind of like Guide of Souls, creature enters, get energy.
Yeah.
Attack
pay 3
or
energy,
spend 3
do
energy, get a thing. Yeah, it could be something like that. So the One Ring everywhere, Amp Raptor. I still think energy is going to be good just because like it existed without
the ring.
The ring, and like Amp Raptor is like card draw, mana cheat, like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But like I think the Guide of Souls, a Johnny Galvanic Discharge shell is gonna be good. I mean, there was the Jeskai control deck that was like Wrath the Skies and Galvanic Discharge, Flage. Like you could have some sort of like red white controlling deck, red like Jeskai.
Yeah.
Energy control deck. Like you could do something and still have like an energy deck.
Yeah, I mean like the discharge is good, but I guess I'm not sure how relevant Guide of Souls is, but like Amped Raptor was definitely what you were working towards spending your energy on.
Mm-hmm.
And like with it gone, like I said, I mean, I guess you could spend the energy with Guided Souls or tag something bigger with your discharge, but there's not like that great payoff anymore.
Yeah. But like the deck could, like you said, the deck could change, and like, you know, your payoff could be like Wrath the Skies or whatever. Where you're like not a creature deck, you're a control deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got rid of Amped Raptor to hopefully not make energy everywhere.
Yep.
And then Gigantha went away as well for the same exact reason. Right? Because like Energy got to play Gigantha, and everyone got to play Gigantha because he was free. Now,
so the unbans.
This is where it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that these are related to each other necessarily. So let's take them one by one, because I think there's a lot to say about all of them.
Yes, I do think they are related in one way, and this is something that got pointed out in like a video I watched earlier today. They are all cards that harken back to peak Modern.
Oh, absolutely. That's not what I meant, though.
Yeah, but like these are cards that are beloved.
Yes.
That people really enjoyed playing in Modern.
Mm-hmm. Format defining in their time.
Yes, and they're cards that like bring us, like, could hopefully bring some of those decks or play styles back that like defined Modern. Because if you're an old head like us, like Modern today in terms of like how it plays,
unrecognizable.
Like
its legacy.
Like Modern before was like a lot of linear aggro decks, some creature combo decks, and then like at our store, less elsewhere, blue, white, and Jeskai control like that.
Yeah.
Thanks Logan and Bowman if you're listening.
Yeah.
Appreciate the download. But like that was like kind of what defined Moderns. You had Tron, and then you had Infect in Affinity, and you had Splinter Twin. Yep. And when Twin went away, you had like these control decks. But like Modern had these like pillars of things. And now Modern, like you said, is kind of turned into like, on some degree, it's slower than even Legacy used to be. Like Legacy was fast, but you'd also get these games that were like intricate and like slow. But like Modern, there seems like there's a lot of like just like with energy and some like what the ring encourages is just like multicolor soup decks. Like you have fetch lands, you have triomes, your mana's great, you can cast whatever you want. And like you have these huge card advantage engines built in, so it's just like, well, I'm just gonna grind and eventually get there.
Yeah. And
the removal's so much better now than it used to be. Right? Like again, Path to Exile, which is stone unplayable now, was a $10 uncommon.
Absolutely.
Fatal Push, which is still playable, still good, was a $10 uncommon because like it just, I remember that I went and looked up the most played creatures in Modern, and I was like, oh my god, like Fatal Push kills like everything. 90% of the most played creatures in Modern. This is crazy. Why would they print such a powerful card? Right? Like, I don't know how playable Fatal Push is like anymore.
Right.
It might be because like Swamp's not playable, like it used to be. But right, like a lot of like just Modern is like a much different beast. Like now you have free Swords to Plowshares on a 3/2 body.
Yeah. And
like just very different things. So the thing that ties all these cards together is there are corners of the internet that have been crying for them since they've been banned. And people are like, I just want to go back to be able to play this card or this deck. Yeah. Or whatever.
They're I mean, they're also cards that Magic has kind of, with definitely the exception of one, maybe two, Magic has just kind of moved on from.
Yes.
Like
that is like
there's cards that are way more powerful than cards on this list.
Yeah, that is another thing, is just the idea of when these cards were banned and now what Magic looks like.
Right.
Doesn't make sense anymore.
Right.
Right? Like you look at the cards and you're like, why is this banned? Like this is not what modern Magic is about.
Yeah.
And so I think I know we've done like little asides on other shows where we've gone through the like ban list and been like, why is this here?
Yeah.
You could take more cards off, but I understand the idea of like, let's take off this chunk of beloved cards.
Yeah. See what the format looks like.
One, does modern get better?
Yep.
Right. Two, do we break it?
Yep.
Right. Like, are these cards too good? Because like if you unban 10 cards, right, then it's hard to figure out like which card broke it.
Yeah. Which one was the problem?
Yeah. Or like, oh, if you have to ban something out of that 10, are we just gonna get like another thing from that? Is one of the remaining 9 gonna be a problem? Like 4 is like easier to like digest and be like, okay, here's what the problems are, because they have unbanned and then rebanned things in the past.
Absolutely. Looking at you, Grave Troll.
Yeah, I don't think Grave Troll is gonna get to come back off to play.
Probably not.
Probably not. But all right. So the first card they unbanned, and the one that I'm fairly confident that Magic has not passed by, is Mox Opal.
Oh, okay. Sure, we'll start there.
Sorry, I guess I didn't look at the show notes. I was looking at the ban list.
No, yeah, no problem. We can start with Mox Opal. Yeah, that is the one that I said, or that I was thinking of in my head when I said Magic has not passed this one by. This one is still powerful.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, it's a 0 mana artifact. It's a Mox. It taps for any color of mana, but you can only activate this ability if you control 3 other artifacts.
Yep.
Yeah, of course.
3 or more, not 3 other. So 2 other.
3 or more. 2 other. Of course, the version that Wizards has linked, when you scroll Mox Amber or Mox Opal, does not have the reminder text. It just says Metalcraft. So Metalcraft is you have to control 3 artifacts to do the thing. So fast mana is always a thing that like is appreciated.
Yeah.
In a format like Modern.
The reason that like Mox Opal might be interesting is I can see what they're going for. Kind of like you just said, it is a staple card in a beloved deck that harkens back to the glory days of the format in Affinity. I think the potential problem with Mox Opal is like Thought Monitor, Kappa Cannoneer decks.
So Mengu posted a screenshot today.
Yeah.
And on turn 2, he had double Mishra's Bauble, Mox Opal, Emery, 2 Memnites, Thought Monitor, and a Kappa Cannoneer on the battlefield.
Yeah, that's gross.
Right. Yeah, like that is the concern, right? Their counter to this is like we've printed. They called out Meltdown and another card.
Oh, that's true. I forgot we had Meltdown.
Meltdown and Wrath of the Skies.
Yeah.
Or Wrath of the Skies. So like you have a 1 mana nuke all 0 mana artifacts, and you have a 2 mana nuke all 0 mana artifacts. Right. The hidden mode on Wrath of the Skies is white destroy all zeros. So like there are now like pressure release valves in the format to help deal with the enablers for the affinity decks. Right. So that is at least helpful. But like, so Mox Opal got banned kind of around Urza time.
Yeah, it was definitely for Urza.
So it was Urza's kind of what got it banned, like the Urza Goose decks, right?
For
Ironworks, and then Cart Clan Ironworks and Lantern. So the decks that Opal enabled, like classically in Modern, were Cart Clan Ironworks that got banned. Thanks, Matt Nass. Well, I guess thank you, Matt Nass, because that deck was miserable.
It was.
Lantern Control, another deck that was miserable. So Lantern Control again. Yeah. Was it like the guy who like made the deck was from, I forget what his name is. He's from Texas. It's not Sam Black.
I thought Sam Black was the one that made it famous, though.
Maybe it was Sam Black who made it famous. But it's like an ensnaring bridge artifact control deck where you play Lantern at Insight so you can see your opponent's top card, and then you play ways to mill your opponent's top card.
Yeah, so you just keep giving them garbage.
Yeah, it's like you just give them things they don't need.
Yep.
And Mox Opal helped accelerate you to that lock.
Yep.
And then like old-timey Affinity, Memnite, Ornithopter, Cranial Plating, Signal Pest, and Mox Opal was just a way for you to dump your hand onto the battlefield more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We now have 2 Cranial Platings.
Yeah.
I guess a Cranial Plating that also comes on something.
On a body.
On a body. So we have like maybe those decks can come back, because like a big part of Modern, I guess almost a decade ago now, like I was playing Modern 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A lot was like I said, you had like your aggro decks, which were Affinity, Burn, and Infect.
Yep.
You had like your 2 big mana decks and like your Primetime deck, and like Tron. And then you had like, your mid-rangey Jund deck.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really another mid-rangey deck.
Pod.
And then you had your control decks, right? Like, and Mox Opal will hopefully enable artifact aggro decks again.
Yep.
Which is not something that Modern has had in a long time.
Yep.
And it might also enable like some sideways artifact decks that can just like enable Mox and like do other stuff. Like it might not have to be a creature aggro deck. I don't think Lantern is good enough anymore.
Yeah, probably not.
Because you just like mulligan to like Wrath the Sky and like Meltdown and just like, good luck. God bless. See what we do here. Oh, you have artifact lands? Sick.
Yeah.
Gotta take those out too.
The only thing I'm worried about with Opal is like 8 cast being too good.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Like if it enables other weird artifact decks, like that's ideally that's what would happen, but I think 8 cast is going to be too good.
Definitely said like, oh, like the artifact decks have been like fringy, and I'm like, oh, they banned Mox Opal because like they banned it right before Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like then they pushed a bunch of artifact stuff in Modern Horizons 2.
Yep. And
so it's like, okay, this makes sense because like if this was there with these cards, then this is like a problem.
Yeah.
Because Modern Horizons 2 is what gave us Thought Monitor, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, like you can't kind of Mox Opal and Thought Monitor and like the stuff around that. Like, okay, this makes sense. So like, there was definitely a time where you had to like have dedicated artifact sideboard cards in your deck. Because
Absolutely.
if you didn't, you just lost to Affinity.
Mm-hmm.
And like it might go back to that. And that's another thing that's like I think a little bit different than Modern now. I haven't paid as much attention as like used to be like, okay, like I have my like Affinity sideboard cards. I have my Tron sideboard cards. I have my Burn sideboard cards. Like you had specific sideboard cards for specific matchups.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like I don't think you have that like kind of targeted thing anymore.
Right.
All right. And then next up is a card I've never played with in Modern.
Me neither. It was banned when I started playing Modern.
And that is Green Sun Zenith.
Yeah, I've certainly cast a Green Sun Zenith before, but not in Modern.
So what does Green Sun Zenith do?
It's X and a green sorcery, and you search your library for a green creature card with CMC X or less. put it onto the battlefield, shuffle your library, and shuffle Green Sun Zenith into its owner's.
So another big part of Modern used to be combo decks, particularly creature combo decks.
Yep.
Right? Like you had Birthing Pod, then you had Devoted Druid combo, and things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And those have gone away as like removal has gotten more efficient.
Yep.
Right? It's just harder to put those pieces together. And so this can help you put your pieces together.
Yeah. It also, in decks that want it, is just a 1-mana ramp spell when you go get a Dryad Arbor.
Yes, and I think that is honestly why it got banned.
Yeah.
Was they didn't want to have this 1-mana ramp spell. Now, granted, it is fragile.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, there was that ramp spell, like, I think in Zendikar Rising that was, like, white, green, go get a land tapped and, like, put, like, 2 counters on it or something.
Yeah.
Right, that like didn't see any play because like you just got your thing like
shocked,
pushed, or shocked or whatever. So like there is definitely a downside to it, but the upside is you get a in the late game it's any creature in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think one, they want it to like help some of the creature combo decks. 2, the creature combo decks that are currently being played, this doesn't get all the pieces because of the green creature stipulation.
Right.
So you can't even get like Basking Brood Scale because it's devoid.
Yep, no color.
So, but like this could maybe in like you can't get Yawgmoth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get like Zulaport Cutthroat or Blood Artist. Like you can't get those pieces of like the Yawgmoth decks.
Right.
Like with enough mana, it gets you a prime time.
Well, so that's the only thing that I'm worried about is it making prime time like the best deck in the form.
Yeah. I just think it's a fair concern, but there's all like I just feel like there's so many other things you can do. Like it's like amazing that primetime has just like got to be like one of the top 15 or 20 modern decks or for the last like bajillion years. Like I don't think that Amulet Titan is like a huge problem.
Yeah.
As like being a deck that is good. But like, you know, you're a deck that needs a 1-mana artifact. And like if Tron is good, then people are not Tron. I mean, if Affinity is good, then people are just like playing random hate pieces and stuff like that. So,
according to Goldfish, Amulet Titan is the 7th most popular.
Okay. Like it's one of those decks kind of like Tron that has like just always floated around.
Yeah.
Just because like a 6/6 on turn 3 that gets you 2 more lands and like maybe lets you combo your opponent off the planet is like always going to be good, hopefully.
Yeah.
Like it's a really complicated deck, and I think like people always say that that's what holds it back. It's like it's maybe always secretly one of the best decks in the format, but it's just so hard no one bothers to learn how to play it.
It is absolutely always the hardest deck to play.
So
the deck is impossible to play.
So like I mean maybe this puts it like more on rails and makes it easier.
Maybe.
But I agree, like that is the concern. That was always like, well, like it was always like we don't want the turn 1 ramp spell that also turns into turn 6 prime time.
Yeah.
Right? Like a Llanowar Elf when you draw it on turn 6 is terrible.
Right.
A Green Sun Zenith when you draw it on turn 6 is anything you want it to be.
Yep.
So like it doesn't have the same drawback as an elf.
Mm.
I also saw people maybe say like maybe you could play it in elves. Like there
Yeah,
are
I
all
don't
these
know what
elf
the current
pieces.
elf decks are gonna look like because we got Wirewood now also.
Yeah, and there was another one. There was
Yeah.
another like elves. They brought it up in the thing. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, so they point out Sylvan Safekeeper and Wirewood
Oh
Symbiote,
yeah,
but didn't
yeah.
they give us? Did we get like Quirion Ranger
No, but I
or
think they did give
Quirion?
us another elf.
Yeah, I thought they gave us something else, but
It was in
um,
Foundations, right?
was it?
I think so. I'm almost positive.
They put Heritage Druid in Foundations, but we already had that in Modern.
Maybe that's what I was thinking.
I thought they gave us like Wirewood and then like another thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
Right, like 2 mana, always have a Heritage Druid
Mm-hmm.
is good. Right, like so there are definitely ways you could use this in Elves, and like again, if Elves becomes a deck that is like viable, right? Like
That's a fine deck to be viable.
yeah, like I'm not saying it needs to be like top tier,
Yeah.
right? But like it needs to be a deck that people feel like they can like play and not be embarrassed to like show up with.
Right.
Right? Like I think that there's like there's kind of a bar of I don't want it. It doesn't have to be like super competitive, but it has to be non-embarrassing.
Right.
Right? Your friends can't like look at you and be like, "Why are you playing elves?" Like the fact that the top 15 decks in Modern don't have um elves as one of them is kind of wild because like elves was just like a deck that was always around for years.
Yeah. It was always tier 2. Tier 1.5, tier 2.
Yeah, like
it was also
enough.
like the only deck that could compete with the Eldrazi decks during Eldrazi Winter.
Mm-hmm. It was too fast.
Yep.
But like you had like this like creature deck that wasn't super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It was a like reasonable like on ramp for new players.
Yep. I mean, it was the deck that I recommended to get into Modern with.
Mm-hmm. It was like faster than Merfolk,
mm-hmm.
and like it just kind of like
it was
made
also
sense.
easier to play.
Yeah, and like it made sense, right? So like if we can have like a deck like that back that's
mm-hmm.
like propped up by Green Sun Zenith, and like we've not seen Green Sun Zenith in like ever in Modern. Like it was banned early on.
Yeah.
All right, so why are they showing the whiteboarded version of Faithless Looting? Like, what are you doing? We have Faithless Looting got unbanned.
One of my favorite cards ever printed.
As someone who's played a lot of Dredge, yes.
Yeah.
Very good card. We like.
It's the most recent version, that's why.
Yes. Yes, it's trash, but sorry, Cameron.
But it's got Dak on it.
It does. My cube has old border with Dak art. But so Faithless Looting, I think a lot of people think of it as a combo card, and it kind of is, right? Like it is the best Dredge enabler.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we should 1 mana, draw 1. Or sorry, 1 mana, draw 2, discard 2.
With flashback.
Flashback 2 and a red. So it like in Dredge, it was like your turn 1 play and then your turn 3 play.
Yep.
Right, in an ideal world. So it enables Dredge. It enables Reanimator decks.
Mm-hmm.
And like in Modern Horizons 2, like they printed Unmarked Grave and was it Undying? Was the card? Or Persist.
Persist, yeah.
Yeah, I was like it does something that's a mechanic name, but Persist, right? And we've had like there's been I just had it up. They're like Goryo's Vengeance decks, like that are like Goryo's Vengeance, right? Like those kind of reanimator decks could be helped by Faithless Looting. The Grinding Station, like Underworld Breach decks, could be helped by these as well. Like just like as food to like feed to your breach. And then Phoenix. Well, the other role that Faithless Looting had that it like grew into was Faithless Looting became Modern's Brainstorm.
It absolutely did. That's where I was going with this, because I know you enjoy all the broken stuff, and like Faithless was kind of a staple in the decks that you tended to play. And every once in a while I enjoyed playing those decks too, but the kind of Faithless decks that I really liked playing was like Mardu tokens. Which I think is where the point that you were making started, is like when that deck started to get popular, it became Modern's Brainstorm, and then Phoenix came around.
And they got like, so they said that they got rid of Faithless Looting for Hogak, and I don't feel like those two things were like related. Like I don't remember feeling like
I didn't pick up Hogak until after it had lost Faithless.
Yeah, because they were in their description of it. It was so like, you know, Hogak was stronger than anticipated. One of the cards that died for Hogak's sins was Faithless Looting, and I didn't remember it. Like, I felt like Faithless died because of Phoenix. Like, I wish we could probably go back and look, but like Phoenix was starting to be like kind of the top of the meta, and like that is a deck that like would be great to be like now. Like that'd be a great deck where it's just like it just kills stuff and like does thing. Okay, like sounds great. Sounds way better than what we've been having. Amazing. More of that. But like Mardu tokens, it was kind of used as Brainstorm. Before that, there were the Bedlam Reveler decks, which like Bedlam Reveler was like more. It drew you cards, but it was kind of more expensive Clarion Terror. They mentioned Hollow One.
Absolutely, Vengevine,
Hollow One decks. So it definitely supports a lot more than just combo. And can like encourage like mid-range games that don't revolve around just sheer piles of cards from the One Ring. Where you're like, I think we've talked about this before, but like the way that modern cards are designed, it's much more about resource deployment in Magic games now than resource management. Right? Like it's, can I use all of my mana every single turn? And Faithless Looting helps more, is more of like a resource like management card. Like,
what do I need now?
I'm not going to play this land now because I'm going to Faithless Looting and I'm going to want to be able to discard it. Right? I want to turn this Faithless Looting, this land into something else, as opposed to just the One Ring, which is like, you've drawn 6 extra cards. It doesn't matter what they are. You just have 6 more cards. This is a card that is like, I have 2 cards I don't want. I need to try to turn them into 2 cards I do want. I'm going to use Faithless. Right? I'm trying to manage my resources as opposed to just always having a fistful of cards. But like, I think that you could definitely get like, again, on the unfair side of things, like Archon of Cruelty with Persist, like turn 1 Faithless, discard your Archon, turn 2 Persist it, get them. Like, and like that is a play pattern from old red-black Reanimator in Legacy that doesn't get played much anymore. But like you have, right, like you had this way to like do that quick, but you also have this card that enables all this other stuff. And I think that like so years ago I followed the Arc-Like Phoenix group on Facebook.
Yeah.
And they have it posted forever. And just randomly today they made a post that just said the bird will rise again.
Bringing the Phoenix back.
So they are in on Arc-Like Phoenix.
Yeah.
But like Arc-Like Phoenix as Jund.
Yeah.
As like your removal like answers like mid-rangey deck is like fine. Like this is what we want with the world.
Yep.
And like it would have draws where it would like turn one like Faithless Looting, discard 2 birds, and then like, you know, whatever. Somehow Manamorphose or like, you know, and then play 2 spells and get like 2 birds back and attack quickly on turn 2. But then it also was just like what you play in Pioneer minus Treasure Cruise.
Right.
Just like removal spell, and then eventually get there.
Yep.
And like a deck like that could serve as like the policeman role, much like our next attack.
I was just going to say that leads us very nicely into the next card, the policeman of the format.
Which is Splinter Twin.
Banning the Twin.
What does the Splinter Twin do?
Splinter Twin is an aura that costs 2 red. And enchanted creature has tap, put a token that's a copy of this creature onto the battlefield. That token has haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step.
Yes. So, strangely, the combo that we're going to describe was in Standard. They just missed it. So, you have Pestermite, which is 2 in a 2 in a blue, flash 2/1 flyer. That when it enters the battlefield, you can tap or untap something.
Yep.
And then you have Deceiver Exarch, which is 2 in a blue for a 1/4 flash. That when it enters, you could untap something.
Yep.
Or you can tap something.
Yep.
And so the joke is that on turn 3, you play. You flash in on the end of their turn. You flash in one of those 2. And then you play Splinter Twin on it.
Kill them. And
yet you tap the creature. It makes a new one. When the new one comes in, it targets the original. Untap it.
Yep.
Repeat, rinse and repeat. And you make an arbitrarily large number of things and attack for the win.
Yep. And that's exactly why it serves as the policeman of the format. Because you cannot tap out on turn 3 or you might just die.
Yeah, so the role that Twin, like the normal play pattern for Twin was turn 1, like tap land or Serum Visions. Turn 2, remand something.
Yep.
Turn 3, if you tap out, they wanted to just go like, you know, Exarch, untap, win the game on turn 4. And then what made the deck kind of the deck everyone loved was, so it had this like combo control like game plan. And then in games 2 and game 3, when your opponents were like worried about the twin combo, you could cut all of that and just play as like a control deck.
Oh yeah. Blood moon the hell out of people.
Yeah, so your opponents are like worried about these the cards that you like played game 1, and then you're like, you don't even have creatures in anymore.
Right.
You know, Jund brings in their Abrupt Decays to kill your thing, and you're just like, yeah, no, it doesn't matter. I don't have the thing anymore. Your Abrupt Decays don't do anything.
Right.
But it served, like you said, it served the role of, if things ever swung too far one way or the other, Twin could adapt and then like prey on things for a while. And it's also a deck that is very skill testing to play with and against.
Yes.
Right? Like, you know, as a Twin player, you have to like, you know, sequence your lands properly, like know what to counter, what not to counter.
Get yourself into a position where you can
do the thing. and then as the opponent, like you have to worry, like, you know, do they have it? Like you kind of have to like
apply pressure and get them in a position where they can't do the thing. They have to answer your
yeah,
thing, and
yeah. So like uh oftentimes the twin player, at least against me, always had it. Thanks, Bowman, again. But so like you had this back and forth,
yeah,
and that is something that people have wanted because the format has gotten like wonky,
yeah,
and there wasn't anything that like served the like I can disrupt you, but then I can also win quickly.
mm-hmm.
And like this does that.
Um, I forget what I was gonna say.
Well, it has way better tools than it used to, right? Like you get to replace opt with.
Well, you get to play opt. You get to
Oh, yeah,
play.
I guess you didn't have opt.
Yeah,
Opt and consider, but you
opt and
get to
consider.
replace. Like you used to only have serum visions,
Yep.
but now you have preordain.
Yep.
Right, so you have like way better ways to dig.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would imagine the deck probably keeps remand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's
but
what it wants to do.
But it also just gets counterspell.
True.
And like now you have like Thundering Falls, so now like even if you don't have a like turn one cantrip, you have a land that like sets up your next draw.
Yeah, like blue for counterspell though makes Blood Moon run.
It does. Like I don't know if they necessarily have to have like the Blood Moon juke.
Yeah.
They could do something else. I mean, you could play the stupid fish that makes everything blue.
Yeah.
But like I also think mana's way better now than it was when we played Twin.
Yeah.
Right? Because like they were playing Steam Vents.
You didn't even have all of the fetches when Twin was legal.
Yeah, and you had Steam Vents.
Yeah.
And the Checkland.
Yeah.
Sulphurous Falls. And now you have Steam Vents,
Spire Bluff Canal,
Spire Bluff Canal, the Flip Lands.
Yep.
You can sneak a Triome in there.
Yeah.
So like you just have way more. I was thinking that like the deck could be like Jeskai, and like you play like one of the fears years ago about like, oh, you can't unban Twin is they can play Teferi now.
Yeah.
Right? So like you just like they like play Teferi on 3, pass a turn if Teferi lives. On turn
Coast
4 they
clear.
can go like Exarch, go Twin, win.
Yeah.
Right? Like it slows them down a turn, but it's just like protected and like good. So like now you've got to like, okay, I have to kill this Teferi on my turn 3 so I can't develop. And then now I can't tap out on my turn 4 because if I do, I could just lose the game.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about Teferi. I did remember what I was going to say, though, and you kind of just answered it with a Teferi thing. But do you think that like Solitude is going to keep it in check?
It could, right? Like Solitude. I mean, in the mirror, right? Force of negation, right? Countering the Twin.
Yeah.
So like there are more things that you could do. Like this is a reason to like play white is like you can tap out, but then you have Solitude.
Yeah.
Or if you're blue, you can tap out and you have force of negation. Like we didn't used to have 0 mana interaction in Modern, and so like you had to like actually play with the lands that were like in front of you, and if you were tapped out, your opponent knew the coast was clear.
Yep.
Like we don't have that now, right? There are like 2 things that really interact with it easily that are like thoroughly played.
Mm-hmm.
But like there could like, but it is a deck that like I'm willing to bet there are people that have kept it sleeved. Like from when it was banned, it just like
just waiting
aside, just waiting. And and Force of Vigor.
Yeah.
Right. So there's Oh, God. And the stupid black one. Force of Despair destroys all creatures that came into play this turn.
Yep.
Right? So, like, I guess red's the only one that doesn't have a force or an elemental that, like,
takes care of it.
Takes care of Twin. So, yeah, I mean, it could just be that we have better interaction now. But
not a problem.
Yeah, it could just not be a problem anymore. And like Twin, the like control game of Twin is if you've played with any old heads or if you are an old head, bolt snap bolt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where like they've taken out like a bunch of their like their combo pieces and they're just like, okay, I'll lightning bolt you. I'll play Snapcaster Mage. I'll lightning bolt you again. I'll attack you for 2, and now you're
I mean
4.
The days of Snapcaster have kind of left us also, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. I did see someone say just like ban stuff in Modern until Snapcaster is good. it's like that's a lot of.
I mean, the other thing is, did Twin and Mind Sculptor exist in Modern at the same time?
No.
So that's another thing is your juke is better with Mind Sculptor.
Well, I was thinking, what if your juke is 3 mana Saheeli? Right? Like you're just this spell deck and you're just like you play Saheeli, you say go, and you're like counter your thing, get a creature. Kill your thing, get a creature. And you're just like, I need to make like 2 or 3 tokens here, and it's like a little bit harder to interact with than like a young pyromancer. Right? Like you have this like young pyromancer that's like harder to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are a lot of ways that you could like have like a cyborg juke where you're like game 1 you're like Twin, and then game 2 you're doing something else.
Yeah.
But it was never a deck that I played, but it is a deck that like I think like hashtag unban Twin has just been a thing that has like perpetually been happening for like years, and like every time there was a ban announcement and like Modern was messed up, Twin would spike.
Yeah.
Like
people thought it was coming back.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is the one that they're gonna unban. And like 4 mana, no value and fragile is not something that Modern is about anymore.
True.
Now, it wins the game if it gets to do the thing, so that's good. Like if you're gonna used to say in Modern, if you're gonna pay 4 mana, you have to win the game.
Yep. It does that.
Very much so. But like it's a dead card.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you don't have one of the other 2 pieces, it just doesn't do anything.
Yep.
Right, and that's another dangerous thing in like Modern Magic is like you're not allowed to have cards that like just don't do anything. Like even in Limited, right? Like you can't play the cards that are like, well, if I have this other card, this card is good. It's like, no, you get clowned because you draw it, then you have a bad card.
Yep.
Right? So, but I guess we also have like ridiculous things like there's like Brain Surge now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Super Brainstorm. Also, like, I guess they get to play Reverse Polarity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, if you do tap out, maybe they don't have it and they just steal your spell.
Yeah.
Right? You're just like, oh man, they have 3 mana up. Like, I can't, like, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like, and like, they could also like be some version of the energy control deck.
Sure.
Right? Like, they're like, well, I'm not going to win with Lightning Bolts. I'm going to play, like, Galvanic Discharge. I'm going to play, like, Wrath of the Skies. Like, I'm going to do this thing that, like, what was his name? Javier Dominguez, like, top 8'd with that, like, just got control deck. You could do something, right? Like, your juke is you play Flage.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're a Teferi. You have Teferi in your deck to protect your
combo, and then you morph into a Jeskai control deck with Flage.
Yeah, with Flage and like Wrath of the Skies.
Yeah. And
it's just like, oh, like, okay, this is a huge problem. right? So like there are like, and like even the white seems difficult, but like Ragran Triome like fixes all of your mana problems.
Yep.
And you know you'd play what, probably 8 to 12 fetches.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the mana's way better now than it used to be.
Way better. So like you could totally do that. So this is the one that I I don't know how, like, I don't know how impactful all of these are going to be other than Mox Opal. Right? If you told me that we had 2 weeks of people jamming Twin and then no one played it again, think about Jace the Mind Sculptor. Like, I went out and bought Jace the Mind Sculptor that got unbanned in Modern.
Mm-hmm.
Jace does not get played in Modern anymore.
It certainly does not. Jace doesn't
right?
even really get played in Legacy anymore, does it?
No. Like, Big Teferi, Little Teferi,
yeah.
Narset have all, like... Also, like, Narset helps you find your twin.
Yep.
Right, you have way more ways to put it together. So I think that like Twin is the one that is like probably that might be least impactful.
Yeah.
But I think the one that is like most beloved. Right, like this is the one that might get people to show up to like their Modern night.
This is definitely going to bring people out of the woodwork.
Yeah, like, oh, I get to play Twin again? Amazing. Yeah.
Like those are the people that would come out of the woodwork too, like Twin players.
Mm-hmm. And like those are the people that Wizards kind of needs to get back.
Yeah.
Not
us filthy Jund players.
One, if they unban Deathrite, would Jund be good?
No.
There's nothing else they can give Jund.
No, I don't think there is anything else they can give.
And like also
like
the problem,
Modern
like,
Magic banned Jund, not the ban list.
Fair.
Player design banned Jund.
And I mean the problem with like, you know, one of the main problems with Modern Magic that relates to the mana being so good, right, is if they printed some like, you know, what was that like playtest card, like Jund 'em out?
Yeah.
Right? If they just printed the Jundiest card that ever Junded, right? Some blue deck would be able to play it.
Right.
Because the mana is good enough. We'd be playing Moist Jund or, you know, Dark Teamer or whatever it is. And Jund wouldn't be good enough because Jund 'em out would, like, be in some other deck.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be the best card then.
And so, like, you just have this thing where, like Psychic Frog, right? Like, the mana's good enough that, like, oh, I was, like, of this color deck, but I guess I'll play Psychic Frog.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Psychic Frog, do you want to move on to Legacy?
Sure.
We had 2 bans in Legacy, no unbans. The first is Psychic Frog, and then we also had Vexing Bauble.
Yeah, so Psychic Frog, blue-black for a 1/2. When it deals damage to a player or planeswalker, you draw a card. You can discard a card and put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then exile 3 cards from your graveyard to give it flying.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is a discard outlet.
A free discard outlet.
A free discard outlet. It is a card advantage engine.
Yep. It's a threat.
And it's also your plan B when your graveyard gets turned off.
Yep. It does all of the things.
And so they were like, oh, we banned Grief. Their part of the thing was like, we banned Grief to take care of Dimir Reanimator, but they didn't ban Frog.
Yeah.
And 3BNU was like, why didn't you ban Frog?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to have all of this time where we're playing Legacy with Frog, and Frog should not be there. So we're not going to learn anything about what's really going on in Legacy because all the decks are going to be Frog decks.
Yeah.
I mean, when I went and played Legacy that one night before I left, and I was thinking like, wow, I should probably change my sideboard in depths because like I have to have a way to kill Frog.
Yeah. So according to Legacy Metagame on Goldfish,
Mm-hmm.
20% of the Legacy Metagame is frog decks. The top 2 decks are both frog decks.
Oh, geez.
Reanimator and Tempo. Reanimator is 10.7%. Tempo is 9.3%.
Which is wild.
Yep.
Also wild that, again, I haven't looked at Legacy decks in a while. Dimir Reanimator is $3,700. But that's like 4 Underground Seas.
Yeah.
That's like most of it, right? Yeah, 4 UC is $3,000.
$3,000.
Wow, Wastelands are $20 a piece. Remember when they were $80 a piece?
I sure do. Back when I bought them.
Yeah. Thought Seas $7.
That's awful.
Jeez, Jesus. I'm so poor now. So like basically Frog just was too good. It's probably too good for Modern, but we just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just sitting here and I was like, what if you just played Grixis Reanimator? Where you're like Faithless Looting, Frog, reanimation spells, and like enormous things to put in your graveyard.
Yeah.
Right? Like you take the like Esper Goryo's deck and you make it Mardu. So you get to play like Frog and you don't have to like I think it was Esper for
Well, the Goryo's deck used to be Mardu before it was Esper.
Yeah, well I think it's just Esper for the what is it? Oh gosh, what was it? Oh, they have Ephemerate. Okay, I was gonna say for Faithful Mending, and then Ephemerate to like blink your thing when you like Goryo's it. But like you could keep Frog and Faithless Looting, put them in the same deck. But yeah, like so Frog just kind of took everything over. It is the kind of the like problem. The problem with Legacy to some degree is like any good threat just gets assimilated into like the Delver Shell.
Right.
And the Delver Shell is just Brainstorm, Ponder, Force of Will.
Yep.
Right? And so it was a like Dimir Tempo is just Delver without Delver anymore.
Well, I mean, right? Delver deck stopped playing Delver a while ago.
Yeah. But like the idea of Delver, which was like that like shell, has always been around, but it's just
I mean, Delver stopped playing Delver deck stopped playing Delver when Dragon Rage Channeler was printed.
Yeah, so Modern Horizons ago, and now because like you could very easily see Dimir Tempo going back to like blue red, and just being like Dragon Rage Chandler. I guess is Rockavant banned?
I'm not sure.
Banned. Let me look. I had it up. Nope, it's not. So
it's banned in Legacy.
Oh, it is? Okay. No, yeah. I looked at the vintage list. Yeah, so but like Dragon Rage Chandler and Tamiyo, they're your 2 1-drops.
Yep.
Fatal Push becomes Bolt.
Yep.
Like the only thing you don't have like a clean replacement for is Thoughtseize, but they're only playing 2.
Yeah.
Right? Fatal Push becomes Bolt. I guess Expressive Iteration's gone. But yeah, like you definitely have outs for this deck to kind of revert back to what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess you lose Orcish Bowmasters is the other thing you lose for black. But like Frog was what was holding that together. And then the other thing that they got rid of, like you said, was Vexing Bobble. Just this little 1-mana uncommon. So the glue that holds Legacy together
Force of Will
is Force of Will.
in days.
And so Vexing Bauble turned those cards off.
Yeah.
Colorless, so much like the One Ring, got to go in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so the things that they brought up were like there's a Mystic Forge combo deck, which always kind of has always been floating around.
Yep.
But when it gets to play Vexing Bauble, so you can't counter their thing. And then Painter Servant, they get to play Vexing Bauble, so you can't counter their Painter.
Right.
And it also like was a Force of Will check.
Mm-hmm.
But then so you have to force it.
Right.
And now you don't have the force for the other thing.
Yep.
Right? Like if you don't use your force or your days, you're not going to get to use them. And if you do use them, now your opponent
can't. No, you don't have them, so opponent can jam some.
Yeah. So like it kind of did like both things. Kind of when I used to play like Eldrazi Stompy, and like Anthony was watching me, and I was just like, Ancient Tomb, tap it, Chalice, and like I was like, well, if they counter it, I 2-for-1 them.
Right.
And if they don't, their deck doesn't work anymore. So neat. I'm gonna do that. And so that is the like kind of the same thing here, where it's like it's just reverse Chalice. Basically. It's like I either get to do exactly what I want to do, or you 2-for-1 yourself.
Yep.
And then like the fact that it has the out of like it doesn't matter anymore. I'm gonna draw a card.
Yeah.
Is like insane.
Icing on the cake.
Like it basically is just 2 mana cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like if you already have one in play, you can just like pay 2 mana to cycle it.
Absolutely.
Great. Like there's no downside to it.
Hit your second or third one off the Mystic Forge and clear the top of your deck.
Yeah. So it's very like it's just like made it so that glue goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because like even if you chalice someone, you then had to find some way to win.
Right.
Right? And like Vexing Bauble's like just protecting this, like you have a way to win. Like it's very clear, and it's just like protection for it.
Well, I mean, it's also an easier include in your deck than Chalice, because you don't have to worry about like not playing 1-drops.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't affect you.
Or it's like you just don't play zeros.
Right. Or you don't play, you reduce the number of zeros so that once your opponent like deals with it, now your zeros are on.
Yeah. So it's very it like just doesn't have any downside. Like it is one of the examples of like modern design where the card just doesn't have a downside.
Right.
Right? Like so as you all know, Psychic Frog is a play on Psychotog.
Mm-hmm.
And Psychotog, it got +1/+1. It didn't get counters. It got +1/+1 until the end of turn.
Right.
And it was 3 mana.
And it was format defining.
Yes. And they were like, well, what if we took a mana off of it and made them counters? Right? Like, there's like no downside. You used to be trading a card for a temporary buff.
Yeah.
And now you're trading a card for a permanent buff.
Yep.
And like, and your opponent can't block it because then you just discard 4 cards and you eat their thing.
Yep.
And then you have a monster that they can't deal with. And Vexing Bauble is the same way. Like, okay, this isn't a matchup where Vexing Bauble is good. Cycle it. I don't need it anymore. Cycle it. So hopefully, like, this like gets Legacy a little bit back to what it normally is, or had been. Not that like Legacy post Modern Horizons 2 was great.
Honestly, I'm kind of shocked that Wizards did anything about Legacy, period. I mean, when you were sending me a message earlier about the bans and unbans, what was my comment?
I forget.
Legacy or Modern is closer to Legacy
Modern
now.
Is Legacy, yeah.
Like they gave us Mox Opal and Faithless and Green Suns. Like all of those are staples in Legacy.
Mm-hmm. I think that like it doesn't take much work to throw a bone to the legacy people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know it doesn't feel like they do it very often,
Yeah.
but it's not like a ton of work. So to just be like, you know what? Here's something for you. So you can stop complaining about your format. And I mean, if they want to be like a good partner to Daybreak Games,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like Daybreak has just turned Magic Online into a cube machine.
Right.
And then a place that you get to play Legacy and Modern.
Well, I mean, is that what Daybreak did, or is that what Wizards did?
Well,
I mean, I would argue that shitty formats have done that to Magic Online, not Daybreak.
Well, I wasn't saying that in like a bad way.
Oh.
Like, Daybreak brings up more, like, has the cube up way more often.
Yeah.
Than Wizards ever did.
Right.
Right? Like, if you're going to sit down and play, like, Magic on your computer, most of those games are getting played on Arena.
Yeah.
The things that you can't do on Arena are Modern, Legacy, and Cube.
Right.
And Commander, but we have webcams for that, I guess. Right. So, like, if you, like, you know, make Legacy awful and Modern is so bad that Aspiring Spike, a man who's pays his rent by playing modern, is like, I'll play Standard, thank you. Is playing Standard, there's something wrong. Right? So, like, I don't know if Daybreak can, like, it, like, can exist, or, like, if that partnership works, or if Wizards makes enough money if it's just a cube machine.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, just doing a little bit to be like, okay, like, we'll try to fix one of these formats.
Well, I mean, I think they went a long way to trying to fix both of them.
Yeah. Like, I think we went a long way to try to fix Modern, and Wizards can say, hey, we tried in Legacy.
Yep.
And I think the thing that we have to, like, be mindful of is, like, we have a tendency as Magic players to, like, complain about, like, when there's a best deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's always a best deck, but, like, as long as it's not completely and totally, like, out of whack.
Right.
Or, like, I guess I don't know what the win rate of Dimir Reanimator was, because it was only 10% of the Modern format. Or, sorry, 10% of the Legacy format. But, like, I think it was more that just, like, Frog was in many places. I think Frog was, like, a sideboard juke in... Oh, no, I guess it's Murktide's a sideboard juke in Doomsday.
Oh, okay.
And Oops All Spells is, like, the 9th. The 9th deck in the format.
Kind of wild.
I love it. It's great. Do it. And they have these Poxwalkers, which I guess I have to get now. That are $30. You're killing me. Yeah.
Oh, that's from Warhammer?
Yeah. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, return Poxwalkers from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So, boo. I thought they were from Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh man, put that in Modern, baby, let's go. But no. So, yeah. Hopefully Modern is better. Hopefully people want to, like, go play, like, I want to play some Faithless Looting decks. Like that's great.
I love me some Faithless Looting.
I would be very, very
Put it in Pioneer, you cowards.
Yeah, really. Like, blue-red Phoenix would be so good.
Yeah.
Give us Careful Study, so at least you can't flash it back.
Sure.
Faithless Looting is weird, because it is, like, the most blue-red card imaginable. Yeah. It's like, we don't know, we printed this card in blue, and then we're like, no, we'll make it red.
Make it red. And make it better.
Why? Make it better. I also have maybe an unpopular opinion as I'm scrolling through the Oops All Spells list.
Yeah.
Dear listeners, if a card exists originally as an old bordered card, do not buy the new old border of that card.
Just buy the old border.
Buy the old border, because I'm looking at like an Elvish Spirit guide with like the new art and like an old border that does not look as good as the like Alliance border that I have literally right here.
Yeah.
It's like, why? No, we did this. This card is 25 years old. We knew what we were doing for that one.
Right.
So don't do it. Also, if you're ever going to buy a Narcomoeba, you buy the Future Sight one. You do not buy the Guilds of Ravnica one. I don't care how much cheaper it is. No. It can't be that much cheaper. Let's see here. Let's look. Future Sight one. $2.50. Ravnica one. Oh geez, they have old borders of this too. Monsters.
Oh man.
Oh, the cheapest 50 cents. It is worth the extra $2 to get the cool art.
The Future Sight.
Yes, I am an aficionado of Narcomoebas.
Mm-hmm.
So trust me on this one.
Take your word for it.
Yes. All right. So do we have anything else?
I don't think so. I think the only thing we have is a show.
Yeah. So if you have thoughts on Modern, if you were like gonna dust off your old timey twin deck or something, let us know. Facebook, Discord, X, email, all those links are in the description. Also, like we said before, if you have like ideas for the show, we are, again, I think Wizard shuts down this week or next, so nothing should be coming out other than, we will get a Christmas spoiler.
Oh, that's true.
We will get a Christmas spoiler.
Oh, so it's going to be your Aether Spark.
You think?
I do.
Oh, man. There you go. Maybe I'll record. Maybe I'll like get into the shorts game now. Start doing
called
shorts
shot.
As TikTok goes away.
Yep. That's my called shot. Is the Christmas spoiler is going to be the Aether Spark.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep. So yeah, if you're looking to support the show, you can do so one of two ways. First is our TCG player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Surf on over there, pick up your $40 Splinter Twins, or your Green Sun Zeniths, or Mox Opals, or whatever you need for your freshly unbanned decks. Using our link, and you'll help support the show at the same time. We appreciate it. If you want to support us more directly, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Get access to my show notes, get access to our unshow, and support us. Chip a couple bucks in, we'd appreciate it.
So with that, we'll catch you on the internet.
We'll catch you on the internet.